But Steve Angeli, the last year backup quarterback for Notre Dame, has entered the transfer portal. A lot of people have linked Tennessee to this. Now, I don't want to go there yet. Let's start on Notre Dame. You would know more than most. I'm going to kick this one over to you. But Steve Angeli going into the portal, Joe, before he even did, the whole Greg McElroy thing and everybody talking about him, being the second coming of Burrow, don't act like I wasn't going to talk about that. But this kid did have a really good drive in the playoffs. I think a lot of people are just shocked based off of the drive that he had. He enters the portal. What can you share with us on him?
After we did the segment talking about the quarterback race at Notre Dame, and we were speculating like, oh, wow, it really doesn't sound like anybody's separating. I dug into it a little bit more, did some more reading, talked to some people that were able to give me information on that cover Notre Dame and kind of shine light into what's been happening. And there's been a very different outlook on this race than I thought. Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr have been spectacular. And Steve Angeli has been exactly as we've portrayed him. Very high floor, but he is nowhere near as high ceiling as either Carr or Minchey. Minchey, and we saw this in the spring game, Minchey was extremely mobile and athletic. He did a freaking backflip after he scored a touchdown.
I saw that.
CJ Carr was pinpoint accurate, and he was very decisive. And none of the big plays came from Steve Angeli. Steve Angeli did just enough. And I think that Marcus Freeman has always been a player-first coach. And from my understanding, the way that I read into this, he wanted to narrow the quarterback race down to two guys. You can't have a 3 QB race going into the fall. And I think that he was extremely blunt and direct with Angeli and just told him, hey, look, we're moving to the next two guys. If you're looking for another opportunity to play, go do what's best for you. I think that for Notre Dame's fans' sake, because those are the people that are going to be tuning into this segment, I believe that this is a positive sign because when was the last time that Notre Dame had a quarterback battle where you had two guys that were relatively highly recruited that were doing this well that they pushed a guy out that everybody thought was going to be a quality player that did great things for
you and I kept having. Remember, I would always joke with you about, Notre Dame's tampering in the portal again at quarterback. And look, they
didn't have to do that this year.
No, well, the truth is, for the first time in the Marcus Freeman era, I feel like we go into a situation not knowing we've not seen that quarterback at Notre Dame before. Like last year, you had Riley Leonard. Well, you saw Riley Leonard at Duke. You knew what you were going to get with him. Sam Hartman, you knew what you were going to get with him, right? Like you knew. So then all of a sudden, Joe, you come into a situation where like, the kid that just led that drive against Penn State, he didn't win it. So what's going on? I feel like there's a lot of optimism is how I would read it.
Right, and it's just like, so Kennedy Urlacher also entered the transfer portal, and he's going to USC. A lot of USC fans have been like, oh, look who we stole from Notre Dame. Well, it is the fact that you're taking a guy who literally was not going to touch the field. Kenny Urlacher was so promising and had a lot of great upside. They're so well recruited at safety that the real outlook on this is that, man, that stinks that we're losing him, but we've got so many other good players that is the better outlook of like, hey, there is so much upside at the position. So the same thing applies here for quarterback is that, sure, we could be worried about a guy who had an awesome drive in the playoff leaving the team, and like maybe that's a bad sign that he didn't want to be there. The real look of it is that you've got two talented players duking it out for the position. That is how this is turning out, and Carr or Minchey is going to end up being that starting quarterback for Notre Dame next year.
And what you saw and what you think, who do you feel like wins that battle?
I think it's going to be Minchey. I think that knowing what, and you could probably attest to this, knowing what Denbrock likes in quarterbacks.
Oh, if you're mobile, you're going to have a leg up. That's just a fact.
I think that is going to be a motivator. I think Carr is going to eventually start when Minchey's gone because Minchey's been around for a few years and he's been sitting on the bench for a few years now. I think that Minchey brings a really high upside to the offense that Denbrock's going to want to tap into.
Look, I've talked to Mike. Like I've had literal face-to-face conversations. The first year he was here, I say here, LSU, as an example. I'm like, listen, man, some of these plays feel like they're broken down, and then Jane makes a play, goes, literally, in 2023, we had this conversation. I even tell you when I saw him in the hall at LSU, I was going to do the DeCorian Moore commitment. the number one receiver in the class. We went to Dallas and we were doing it. Saw Mike in the hallway and we were chatting. I'm like, bro. He's like, dude, he's the best player in college football. I asked him though, I was like, what is so different about like him, and other than just the speed? I don't want to hear that. Mike goes, listen, in every single meeting that we have, this was the key takeaway for me. Every single meeting, there are some plays in there that I would tell Jaden, or I would tell Desmond Ridder is who he brings up. Run. If your first two reads, basically, hey, if Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas aren't open, go. And that is Mike Denbrock's thought. Joe, what was the first drive against Penn State? What was the first drive against Ohio State? What did they do? They physically lined up and ran the football. No. Hold on now. They ran the ball. They didn't run the ball with their running backs mainly. What did they do? Riley Leonard lined up and they rammed it down their throat. Now, it would be a different and listen.
Yeah, Minchey's not that same type of a runner. And he's probably not going to be, yeah.
Let's go the opposite side. What did he do the year before or 2 years before when he was with the quarterback that doesn't want to run up the middle? What did he do? We're going to get to the outside and we're going to make you basically go triple option. Mike is so, for me, Denbrock is so great at, regardless of the quarterback, his system will fit. Joe, they ran a triple option in 23. I mean, they would play action, zone read you, tight end in the flat, and Malik Neighbors would go deep, or he'd run a cross, or he'd run a drag. I think that you could have this here. I don't know who wins the battle. I'm not going to come in here and act like I know who wins the battle. If you're talking about the mindset of someone that I know, the outright mindset of him, that's what I feel when I see Denbrock. Now, again, I don't know who wins it. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think Carr has more upside?
I think that's a hard question to answer. I think they both have different types of upside. I just think that Carr has a little bit more of that really quick trigger decision-making and accuracy that you look for. And then that was kind of how he was lauded as a recruit, that he's just going to come in, be a really high floor starter, and even higher floor starter than what Angeli was billed as potentially. I think that Minchey, you can be a little bit more aggressive. You can be a little bit more creative. Very unique prospect when he was coming into Notre Dame. He was originally committed to Pitt, was not very well known because he was a Pitt recruit. He wasn't like on everybody's radar, except Notre Dame needed, I forget who they lost at the time, but they needed somebody. They needed a quarterback commit at the time. I think that the most potential that you get would be from Minchey, though, at the current moment. Because like, how often are guys, I know that Carr was a 5-star, but how often are guys in their redshirt freshman season? He was also coming off of an injury to, I think, his elbow.
Yeah.
Something.
Right.
How often is a guy like that?
Well, and he had nerve issues. Ready? You know, from what I read, he had nerve issues. And once you hit that elbow, let me throw this out there. Name a quarterback under Mike Denbrock that can't move in the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, Ridder, Jaden Daniels. And one could argue, did Garrett Nussmeier, because he's not as mobile.
Never started.
I know, I'm just joking.
Can I be real with you? I think it played a role. I do think it played a role. I mean, Garrett can move. He decides not to. He can move. I mean, I'm not going there.